GNT Show is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. These are the voyages of the GNT Show. Our continuing mission to explore Star Trek storytelling, to seek out new worlds and interesting characters, to Boliga, where no show has gone before. Live long and prosper, bitches.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the G&T Show, episode 298. I'm Terry Lynn, and across the table is the guy who just makes my world. How you doing, Nick? Gettysburg 7.
I make your world? I am a god.
You are a god.
You know, I was just thinking during the intro there, with the new format, Mike, you're going to have our little voice there do a new intro.
I'll get with her agent. She's starting to get expensive.
Yeah. I know, right?
It's like Lego games and
used to be just lollipops and peeps, and now it's Dove bars and, I don't know.
Cash, man. She's asking for cash.
Yeah, now it's just cold hard cash. Like, how old is she now?
Makeup and jewelry. That's all she wants right now is makeup and jewelry. Let's see. I think she just turned 9.
So she
was 4 when she started.
3 when we started this.
Yeah.
God damn. That's crazy. Stop getting older.
Yeah, no, she is. We're not.
Starbucks cards. Give her Starbucks cards.
It won't be long.
Oh my God, Michael Garcia's in the room. Hey. Oh well, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your intro.
No, it's fine. And there he is. Klingon. He's tired. He's
Kapla. All I heard was he's and then silence. So I might have missed my cue.
No, I said he's poopy.
Oh.
Poopy. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
No, we're not done.
Oh, I know.
He's British.
Hello, everybody.
He's Steve.
He's Steve.
Hello.
Hi,
There
Steve.
he is.
Yeah, Nick is practicing with a new hotkey. So he's he might be piping in and out a little bit as he practices when not to cut himself off.
It is so awkward now having to reach all the way up there rather than the easy that I was using before.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure. Well, good morning, everyone.
Hello. What was that?
Somebody was getting a message on Facebook on their phone.
It must have been me.
I think it was everybody.
I was going to say it was the G&T show message just to me. It was probably everybody's phone.
Oh, it was Steve. It was Steve messaging all of us. And we are live on Facebook Live. So hello, everybody.
And YouTube. Hello.
And YouTube.
Oh my gosh. Hi, everybody on Facebook and YouTube. It's Terry Lynn and Mike and Getty and Steve. And we're kind of back together after my week off last week. How did it go?
I've got to tell you, I think it was one of our better conversations.
And I think we spent the whole thing talking Discovery.
Oh, good.
I don't think we got so much news.
Well, good, because I know that it was important for Mike to be able to talk about Discovery too, because we didn't really get to talk to him a lot about his opinions a week before. And now that more had come out, there was more to talk about. So I'm interested in hearing some additional opinions, especially after episode 4. What was that?
Yeah.
Still didn't get to talk about the Klingons.
Oh, yeah.
No, we did, though.
Not
Their
as much
peanut
as I
butter
would have
filled
wanted.
mouths.
That was about the gist of it.
Well, I have thoughts about episode 4. I'm just gonna tell you, I think it was a very first season.
You think it was a very first season episode? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't understand people saying how much they how now this is real track, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
How long do you think they before they stick Ripper in a Starfleet uniform?
No, Ripper should be fucking captain.
Oh, little kitty.
What was that?
Sensei, I'll put a gif in there of a cat. It's adorable.
Well, I'm still way up where Mike Garcia is talking about finishing up work.
Bye, Rick
There
Wheeler.
it is. Okay.
He's got to go apple picking.
He
He said, he said, have a good show. And he said last week's conversation was very good indeed.
Now we can talk about Wheeler now that he's gone.
Oh. Bye, Rick. Okay.
Coffee Clutch, right?
Yeah, Coffee Clutch. So Mike, let's start off with you.
I got to GM my first game of Star Trek Adventures, and it wasn't even a full game. It was the first scene, but I had written the entire game. There's still 2 more scenes to go, but it was awkward and
Mike found one of the dangers of GMing when his character almost died.
Yes, I was not expecting that, but you guys almost killed my character. That's
No. Hold on a second.
The dice. It's always the dice. Blame
You're the one
dice.
that put him in a coma. Wheeler and I saved him. Oh, Terry, you have never seen more failed rolls than last week. Every time one of us rolled, a failure came up.
That's why he was in danger of dying. All of the failed rolls, I was like, holy crap. He was just supposed to be in a coma, period. That's it. But no, he had to have a cardiac arrest while being treated.
I'm not kidding. Every time somebody rolled, a failure would come up.
That is wild.
Not just a failure, but a critical failure, like a 20.
Oh my god!
with
like a 20.
Yeah, with a complication, and it was like, oh crap. I had planned, like, for the first half of the first scene, which Kush was handling. I had planned to use that to build up as much momentum as possible. That was the goal. And by the end of that first scene, I think the group had like 1 momentum, and I was like, holy crap.
Here's how bad it was, Terry. Just firing a probe to investigate a nebula, it got stuck in the tube.
Yeah, I mean, it was horrible.
Oh my god.
I think everybody had fun. I was getting everybody kind of involved by introducing a secondary character, a duty officer, if you will, to assist.
Duty.
Yes, to assist with the various tasks and whatnot. So every scene, like the doctor treating Max, right? So there was a nurse assisting, or another doctor assisting, and that doctor happened to be Nick. So it'd be Rick and Nick. Then in another scene, it was Rick and Kush, and so everybody kind of sort of got to work together in a new and different way. So it was kind of fun, I think, but we'll see what everybody has to say when the story.
No, it was, and it was much more okay, because you know how, like, if it was just Rick as the doctor and Fark was in another part of the ship, so Mike is doing all his medical stuff to keep Max from dying. You know how you're just kind of sitting there listening? Well, having the secondary character with him now, it get more people involved. So it may not have been Fark. It was the
Norman.
Norman. But and then Mario and Rick as the secondary, and then me as Fark and Mario as my second. So you had more involvement, which, if we were all sitting around a physical table together, it wouldn't be bad, but because of the online way of it, at least now we're all far more involved.
That's cool. That's really cool. I'm glad you guys had fun. It sounded like it was pretty crazy. And Mike, it sounded like you did great.
He did. Don't let his
Thank you.
Mikiness. Don't let him being Mike. Now how he beats himself up over everything.
He
I'm gonna
does.
start calling him Fez. He did a great. He had to roll with so many punches, with so many failures, that he had to work around. And also, we used a new mechanic, the ship. So we were learning that as well.
That was, although it was brief because the ship ended up breaking, which was part of the story, which was intended, but you got to use the ship for the first scene, and then the ship breaks, and then you no longer have access to the ship to help.
Broke a Galaxy class ship.
Damn. We are good.
To help you through the rest of the task. So at that point, you're depending on your duty officers, I said duty, to assist you with the rest. So it was different, but I was trying to get, a different type of way that we've been, something different than what we've been trying to do, but trying to, again, explore and learn different parts of the game that we haven't had a chance to. But I had fun, and like I said, there's still 2 more scenes to go, so we should be able to finish up hopefully next week. So,
and we're all still learning the game, so this is a good one, kind of a bottle show, if you will.
If it wasn't for Kush, I mean, he was playing. He had no idea what was coming up or what I was doing, but I was like, I would stop, like, literally in the middle of the game. It's like, okay, what do I do now for this situation? Explain this thing to me. What is this? Because
I still am unsure, Mike, about that whole
the extended roles.
Yeah, you have 3, and then 74, and then 6, and then 5, and you have this and that. And at one point, you guys were going back and forth on that, and I texted Wheeler, and I was like, I have no clue what is going on. And he said, don't worry, I don't either.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how. I mean, I had a general idea going in about how the extended tasks were supposed to work, but it was like the specifics of how it works, I had no clue. So in the middle of the game, I'm asking Kush, and he's like breaking it down step by step, and it's like, okay. By the end, because everybody had, not only did everybody have, everybody had an extended role or had an extended task. So everybody and their duty officer, I said duty again, essentially had an opportunity to experience this large task that they had to overcome in order to get their part of the ship operational.
Like the cardiac arrest when he went into that.
That one was awful, but
we almost lost him during the cardiac arrest because we came up with a critical failure at one point.
Yep.
But luckily, because we had the duty officer with him, that gave kind of an extra roll, and it was just crazy. Terry, here's how bad the rolls were. Now, Mike, I think it was when Fark was trying to fix
the phaser relay.
The phaser relay.
Oh, I hope.
Okay,
you guys,
I had to roll 6 dice, Terry.
I was praying you guys would not fail there, because all that was holding you from outer space was a force field.
Yeah. Here's how bad it is, Terry. I needed to roll 5 points. I'm rolling 6 dice. Okay? So it should be real easy to come up with a 5, right? I rolled a 0 with 6 dice. 6 zeros.
It was the challenge the dice portion of the game.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, wait a minute. There's no zero. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So, and I was like,
The room, everybody went silent for a second. Like, am I really looking at that?
Oh my God.
because
And
it
that's when I burned my little Tellarite hands, and then when we fixed the phaser, I said I high-fived Anna Rose, even though I had burned hands, and then went ouch.
Oh my God. Oh my God. How crazy. That's
Yeah,
awesome though.
it was
It
fun.
sounds like a Year of Hell episode.
I think it was. Let's see. There was the phaser. I think the phaser room, the phaser control. I mean, that was the most difficult. I think for us to get through, and it was. Although there weren't any complications rolled, I'm so glad there wasn't, because that force field.
We had to start it over though, because remember there was a failure, so we had to start over from
Exactly.
scratch.
Exactly.
Oh
we
my
didn't
gosh.
meet the minimum work required to move forward. So I had to sit there and go, okay, it failed because you soldered the wrong leads together or some shit like that. It was like, oh boy, how am I gonna? But it was interesting. I mean, I had it all planned out. I had it all written out, and what a critical success would have been for each situation. I had what a complication for each situation was, and I kind of had everything in an order. I had to jump around because.
What Mike didn't take into account was that this ship was crewed by the Three Stooges.
Originally, I mean, I had a few other people doing certain tasks that it didn't end up going that direction, because I had to accommodate for Jeffrey's tube time. And Rick, for instance, he decided that he wasn't going to be on the bridge. He was going to go down to sick bay. So it was like, well then, okay, so let's fix the life support and gravity problem first, which should have come much, much later in the story. But because he was already there, it's like, and everyone else had to have Jeffrey tube travel time. It was like, okay, so yeah, that was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
And I got to tell you, I was sweating because I was the assistant.
You cut out.
You were the assistant.
I played Norman, the surgeon for the duty officer, and when turned off, we basically turned the life support on and off, or off and then back on. Well, we turned it off fine. I literally had sweat because with the way we were rolling, I just saw us shorting out the entire system.
And meanwhile, we've lost thrusters, we lost impulse engines, and we're floating in a hazardous nebula with gravitational
Omicron
eddies, radiation, and these giant electrical spikes everywhere.
Oh my God, too crazy. So for some of our listeners who may not know, what Nick and Mike have been talking about is Star Trek Adventures. It's the new role-playing game. I'd say new because we're finally starting to see the published books on it coming out by Modiphius. And this is a dice RPG game. You can play it in person like D&D with your dice. There's special dice for it. Or you can play it online on Roll20 and set it up for the Star Trek Adventures aspect of it. We do play on Roll20, although I haven't had a chance to play in several weeks. So that's what they've been talking about, has been this great adventure on the USS T'Pau. And it's been a hoot. Mike, it's interesting, and I'm glad that you got a chance to GM a game because you're such a great storyteller, and to be able to think on your feet like that really puts you back, doesn't it?
Oh, that was the hardest part. I mean, trying to keep the rules straight, obviously, and then trying to get the story to go where I want it to go, but at the same time the hard part is giving everyone a chance to role play their characters. It's like that was early on. I kept forgetting to do that because I wanted the story to move forward and keep progressing, so. But I think I got better by the end, giving everybody a little bit of time to. But I figured
Harry, he's selling himself short.
I
as he
believe it.
always
I believe
does.
it.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Good. Well, I'm very glad for you guys. It sounded like you had a really good time. What else did you guys do this week?
and then I got sick.
I was gonna say that, and as you can hear in my voice, that was pretty much what I did this week. I had 6 presentations in 1.5 days for my company's conference, and I was getting sick on my way. I got sick on my way home from San Antonio when I went to Cushy's wedding. Hi, Cushy. And the presentations and the conference just took me down another notch. So I spent all day Wednesday afternoon, all day Thursday, and Friday afternoon in bed, kind of relaxing and trying to get over this thing. It's a hell of a cold, man, I'll tell you.
We had that here about 2 weeks ago.
What was that?
We had that here about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so yeah, I could see it moving from east to west. And what about you, Mikey? You said you're not feeling well either. Oh, but that was
I had a
something else.
rumbly and the tumbly.
Yeah.
Yeah. My food tried to kill me.
I'm sorry.
That's the last
Steve,
time
what
I
about
have-
you? You've
That's
been
the
an
last time I
active
have
man.
some Giorgio so late in the evening.
Yeah. Oh. Steve, you've been an active man.
Indeed. This week we had our company's annual away day. So this is the 6th one we've had, and I usually help do all the tech stuff and help with the presentations. So yeah, after being up until 20 to 5 in the morning to get up at 6 to get everything sort of organised and ready, we then had lots of activities for the day before the presentation at the end, which included a ninja assault course, which absolutely destroyed me. It got to the end of it and my legs couldn't support me. I just collapsed onto my knees, but I still had to get back up to run the length of the assault course back to tag in the next team member for them to go.
Oh my god.
But by the end of it, I was very bruised and just completely exhausted. But then I had to pack away all the stuff as well for the presentation. So yeah, got back late as well. And yeah, Friday I went into work and well, most people were aching anyway, but I managed to get through the day. But I got home and I was just so exhausted. It's just like my mind, I just couldn't think. I just sent a message to the Tribbles chat just saying no show today. I just can't do it. It's just like, yeah. And I needed a rest because I wanted to do my 5k park run first thing Saturday morning. I was determined that I was still going to do that. So I did. I managed to make it round.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was
Right
31
on.
seconds slower than last week, but I'd expected that. But yeah, it was still like 10 seconds quicker than my estimated time that I thought I'd probably make it in. So I'm happy with that. So
Oh, that's great. Well, I wanted to let's move on. Mike, you got anything else you got to say? Nick, tell us what happened this week.
The car is still in the shop.
Oh, I'm so
Found
sorry.
out that Oh, you weren't here, Terry. You didn't. Problem is,
I don't know what the problem is. I just saw it out of the picture that
Threw
you
a
sent a
bearing.
couple weeks ago.
for a bearing.
Oh,
So they're putting in a whole new engine.
ouch. Well, I guess it's cheaper than a new car.
Not really. Not if it was a used. But
True.
Warranty is covered.
Oh, okay. What was that? You got to push the button.
The warranty is covering it.
Really?
Right on.
Yeah. Oh, I pushed F10.
So you just have to pay the deductible or something?
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow, congrats. Well, I'm glad it's getting fixed.
It's probably a big chunk.
Well, I don't have
covered
it.
by them.
It's still in the shop.
Yeah, that takes a while. I'm sorry.
Better than.
Yeah, we're gonna have to fix.
No, that was me just kind of trailing off.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you trailing off and the button kind of
Button going off. We're not sure
It's
which.
like, yeah. Right on.
All right. Okay. So let's get into it because we all did get to watch episode 4, I am assuming, of Star Trek Discovery. And there's a lot of different thoughts out there. A lot of different thoughts, which is very kind of unusual. I know I can hear from Nick's voice. I can hear from Mike's voice. I have my own opinions. And some of the opinions and discussions I've been having with other friends have all been coming around. And it's interesting that it's this one episode that kind of made a lot of those opinions bubble to the surface. So I'm actually very enthralled as to what you have to say. So who wants to start?
Let's let Mikey start.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Would you like me to start, Mike?
Yeah, please.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go with notes I took as I watched it.
Okay.
Wow, notes.
Cool effect in the beginning where you thought it was some kind of planet, but it was actually the
matter
replicator making
that
the
was
uniform.
awesome. I loved that.
I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I thought that was kind of cool.
It looked ominous. I mean, you got this all lightning and these pillars like coming out of the ground, and it was all super dramatic and dark. And I was like, "Holy crap! What is this?"
I loved it.
It was awesome.
They don't have mirrors. She has to create a holographic replica of herself. That just bugged me. It just bugged me.
For some reason,
we're going to do something cool
nice.
for cool's sake.
No, actually, I thought that actually made more sense than a mirror because it was an actual replica of her. Mirrors have a habit of distorting the truth a little bit. So this was a more accurate representation of herself. You know, it wasn't distorted by a two-dimensional surface. I actually liked that.
I did as well.
All right, so then Tilly comes in, and she's got the package for Michael, and she puts her hand on it, and it says it's the last will and testament, and so she puts it under the bed. Yeah, that's a good thing because it's just going to keep being all night like an annoying fire alarm that needs the battery replaced. That just didn't make any sense to me.
She's already dealing with Tilly snoring.
Well, she didn't care. She was pissing off to do her duty assignment. She wasn't sticking around in the room. She don't care that it's beeping.
Now, I have a question. I may have missed it in the pilot. When they came upon the Klingons, did Saru's threat ganglia, and boy, could they have said that word more?
Right.
Did it come out?
Yes.
I want to say yes, it did, except we didn't notice it all that much the first time because it was, he didn't draw very much attention to it by reaching up behind it to kind of sort of poke him back in, so to speak. He didn't.
Okay, I just couldn't remember.
Yeah, they didn't say what it was. It just sort of happened in the background, but it was there.
Well, this episode, I think the threat ganglia is a perfect example of what I had a problem with in this episode. Aside from saying threat ganglia, threat ganglia, threat ganglia, threat ganglia, they over-explained everything in this episode, and the threat ganglia was a good example. They could have said it once, and we're not dumb. We would have figured it out. it's good to go. But no, they had to have a whole conversation about it.
There was a lot of exposition. I will agree with that. There was a lot of exposition in this, and I'm not sure if it was just if the writers haven't come to terms with how good their visual effects team is or not. I don't know.
And speaking of how good their visual effects team is, I liked the combat simulation when she got on the bridge.
That was great. I really liked that. That was good.
I liked that scene. I liked what they were doing, and I liked the fact that Lorca, told him, "Hey, we're like the most awesomest ship in the fleet. You're gonna have to do better." Some people I saw thought he was being a dick. No, I thought he was a commander trying to get his crew ready.
Yep.
In that scene. Now I'm just saying that scene.
Well,
It runs into the same. It runs into the same problem as Jellicoe, Terry. He's trying to get his crew ready. And Star Trek fans think that's being a dick.
Oh my
that's
God, I
called being a
totally
good
almost
commander.
tweeted the same thing when I was watching it. I was almost like, what? He's all he is Jellicoe. All he is a commander. I loved it. I thought that scene was great. And no different than what I've written about other captains in my fan fiction. Captains need their crews ready. And so there's tactical testing, there's battle simulations, they're always continuously keeping people up on their toes. Because if you get lazy,
that's also
then you miss it.
training the junior officers as they go up.
Exactly.
But Trek fans, I've come to this conclusion. For some reason, they all think it has to be like Picard, this quiet conference guy. No, this rang true to me.
And that's the one thing I always kind of missed in TNG, because there's no way that Picard was going to let his team just sit around on a sofa. They were going to have battle sims. They were. It's just that you never saw them.
I also like the way that Lorca explained the situation behind what we just saw as well. He basically says to Burnham, we're the tip of the spear in a science vessel filled with wide-eyed explorers.
Right.
So he even explains why he's being tough on them.
Agreed.
Yeah, this is the first time that a lot of them, if not all of them, have been in a war situation. It's not a time of peace. It's not a time for exploration. It's a time for war, and he's getting everybody ready.
Because we know from the first episodes, when the bloke who got flushed out into space in the first attack, is he says, we're explorers, we're not soldiers. That part of the Federation, that time, they hadn't been to war. So it was completely unexpected, and Lorca, he's trying to get them ready.
I think this is the first war since the Romulan War, but it's the first war as
in that generation
that the Federation has fought.
Right.
The Federation itself, because the Romulan War was pre-Federation.
It was the coalition, right?
Yeah.
Then we move on to the next thing, where he takes Burnham down to the room of weaponry, and they're keeping the thing that they call Ripper.
It's Team Tardigrade. I am on Team Tardigrade.
Well,
always be Tardigrade.
There's a recurring theme in this episode that the writers kept saying, and I really want to address it. This thing was able to kill Klingons. This thing was able to kill Klingons. This thing was able to kill Klingons. So did Michael.
It wasn't that difficult. The thing is that
they're not that hard to kill. Sorry, Mike, no offense.
Yeah, the Klingons themselves aren't hard to kill, but the fact that their bat'leth didn't work against it is what needed to be focused on, not the other way around. So we all know that this tardigrade thing can deflect pretty much anything. It can't take phaser fire on a kill setting. It can't take bat'leths or any other kind of physical weapon. It just bounces off its shell.
No, but they keep between Lorca and then
yeah, I agree.
Landry, they keep talking about killing Klingons like they're Groot. You know what I mean? It's not making sense to me that they have this thing that they're talking about, unless it's because it's been so long since they engaged the Klingons. But again, she killed one herself.
But that was more of an accident.
No, it
That
wasn't.
She still
No, it
killed him.
wasn't. That's if there was one mistake that Burnham made, truly one mistake that Burnham made, it was shooting Takuvma out of rage. She shot Takuvma out of rage
Oh,
when what they
I
went
was
over there
thinking-
to do was
No,
to
but
capture
Mike,
him.
Steve
I was
talked
thinking the
about one she
torchbearer.
killed- Yeah, the torchbearer outside of
well,
the
that
ship.
was yeah, that was an accident.
She killed him too. So yeah, she killed too. So why aren't they then figuring out how to replicate her?
Well, that's the thing, right? It wasn't the fact that it was a killing. It was the fact that it couldn't be killed.
But Lorca is doing what he has done with her. He has drafted her because she has killed Klingons and because she doesn't just blindly follow orders. She could see what would be the right way, and she did it. So he has drafted her the same way he wants to draft anything.
And yet
that
he
this-
doesn't trust her. And what does he do? He puts in stereotypical aggressive tactical officer who comes in and tries to butcher way out of a situation
Yeah,
by, you know,
Landry.
doing everything stupid.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Oh my god.
Because I wrote this down chronologically.
Okay.
So we leave that conversation and we go to Reese's the Klingon and Albino the Klingon. Yes, I say Reese's because it's just that shit in the mouth like we talked about last week. It's so distracting to me that
Spock and Lorel.
yeah, no, I know.
It was better for me this time around. It was a lot easier for me, and they were actually faster on the draw on their discussion, on their dialogue. It's still a little distracting, but it wasn't near as bad. As it was the first couple of episodes. I thought it was better in this one.
Well, two things came out of this to me. One, the
Shinzu.
not the Shinzu, Romulan. What's the name of the ship? Yeah,
Shenzhou?
the Shenzhou. It's still floating out there, as is this Klingon ship, because evidently neither side 6 months later thinks it's important enough to, take things like their warp drive and their warp core out of their ships. So they just leave them floating there.
Well, no,
But-
it's just
Yeah.
the processing units that was left, not the ore.
It doesn't matter. They still left.
Now here's the thing: you've
They
got
blew
an
up the
enemy
USS
ship
Glenn.
you just took out. You don't think that the Federation's going to send a bunch of ships to take it down
that had a cloaking device.
and had a cloaking device? The Federation would have been there with fucking microscopes and gone over the fucking thing. Section 31 would have, at the very least. I'm just saying, you don't leave two enemy ships just floating in space for 6 months.
And then here's the other thing, Mike. Your people are
Yes.
savages.
Oh,
But we knew that.
No, it's not
Dab,
savage.
jizz.
It's not being savages.
Yes, it is.
They're hunters.
It's
They're-
eating
they're-
the
Anything
heart
to
of
do
your
with their
enemy.
prey.
For you. Here's a question
they're
for
a
you.
warrior race.
Here's a-
They're showing respect to their kill.
That's not respect. They only did it because they were starving. Nice try, though. Well, here's the question.
These Klingons are different. Okay, these are not
Yeah.
Klingons that
Okay.
that we know.
Oh, what? They're what?
These are not the Klingons that we know.
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
That's
Go
it.
ahead. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. Reese's is appalled at going on board the Starfleet ship. Then how did he get her to eat her face? Oh, that's right. She was on their ship. Never mind.
No, he
Yeah.
was objecting to having their technology integrated into his ship.
Yeah, okay, that's my bad.
That's
my bad. You're right.
Yeah,
what he was
that's what that
complaining
was
about, because he'd already sort of salvaged stuff from everywhere else. It was just the fact that was the ship where they had come and killed their leader. That was
it's
the
whole
reason why that
Klingon
was left
purity
alone.
Thing. There's the whole Klingon purity thing.
Yeah.
Here's what I took from that, from him eating her. how can we make these Klingons even more villainous than we ever have before?
Well, see, I don't see them as being any more villainous. There are at least one, if not 2 or 3 mentions of Klingons eating their enemies after they're done.
Yeah.
Throughout the entirety of Star Trek, especially in DS9. I want to say there's at least 2 mentions of it.
Eating the heart of your enemy. I mean,
Right.
I mean, this is not unusual. However, this group of Klingons, because of their view on death, the way that they treat their dead is so much different than what we know as traditional Klingons to be.
Well, that's because they're a cult.
Yeah, they're a cult, and the fact that because they have this quote unquote
Actually,
weird
they're
bent.
not, and I'll get to that.
No, they're a cult.
Yeah,
because they have
unless they're hungry, and then they'll just follow whatever other Klingon comes with.
Well,
food.
welcome to being a follower of a true believer of a fundamentalist of a cult. You will twist whatever it is to make it work for you.
Did the Branch Davidians just leave when they were promised other things? No, they stuck with the guy they were following. The Jonestown people followed. These are fair weather cultists.
Said, let's eat the heart of our enemy, they would have done it.
These are fair weather cultists.
Are they? Or
Yeah.
are they plants? Are they infiltrators?
Please,
They
Mike.
have
we do. Oh, here's the thing. Well, we do know that most of them are fair weather cultists anyway.
Some of them,
because what did most of them do by the end of the episode?
They left with the other guy.
They left.
That's what I'm talking about. They're not real cultists. Sheep.
Duh. That's what
I'll tell you what, Mike.
are?
No self-respecting
They're just
Romulan would have
sheep.
left.
Yep. Okay. I think that they're true to form followers. Go with what is easiest and best for yourself, and then twist the thing and say you were a true believer all along.
And then, okay, so then we have that whole discussion, and then we get to the thing where Landry comes in and says it's a monster, and they're going to name it Ripper, which was just, okay, whatever. Yeah. And then we get, geez, who could Michael Burnham been talking about not judging Ripper by one single incident? Let's beat us over the head with that one. So then we go to Lorca, and he's talking to some admiral who I thought was played by Maura Tierney, and then I looked it up, and it's not. I really thought that was Maura Tierney at first.
Oh, yeah, wow, no, I had no clue.
Yeah, and then they pulled the old Star Trek only ship in range thing, but I like the fact that it turned out Discovery was the only ship in range because of the Poison Ivy drive.
Yeah, they weren't the closest ship. They were the
only one. It was
they were the only one that could respond in time.
Right,
but they
which
weren't
I like
the
that.
closest ship. Yeah,
It wasn't the only ship in the Quadrant Syndrome. It actually made a tactical sense.
Yeah.
Now
the closest ship was 8 hours out.
Right, and that this one tactically was a correct tactical call. Now I know that you had a problem with the gyroscope portion of the ship. Everything that, the spinning disc of gyroscopy Discovery. You had a problem with that, Nick.
Yes. That's stupid.
I loved it.
I didn't mind
it.
It.
Cool. It was in that, to me, looks cool, but really is kind of stupid. And I don't want to be one of those rings that's spinning so fast if they ever lose gravity control.
It's not the ring that's spinning. From what I could tell, it's the surface, because the edge of the ring it's stationary. It's
the windows aren't moving.
It's inside of that is what's moving. I don't.
Then that's even sillier. Then
I don't think it goes all the way through the ship. I think it's just that surface.
One of the things they mentioned in the After Trek is literally everything you see on screen. There is a reason for it, and
that doesn't mean it's good.
And we get to learn the reason how this drive works. So we should
next week.
We should hopefully be learning why that actually happens rather than just
More
seeing it.
exposition and technobabble. Yay! I like that. But anyways,
and so they go down to talk to Stamets, and they give some technobabble about walking radiation firewall and being spun out,
which is
and
the
all of
first
that.
real bit of technobabble we've actually had so far.
That's true. That's true. And then he says they need a supercomputer. So an artificially intelligent ship that even has an ethical subroutine isn't a supercomputer?
Well, they need a
Not
supercomputer.
in their perspective.
It's a bit like
something that's better than what you already have is super. So just because it's super to us, to them in that period of time or in that particular situation, he wanted something that was even bigger than what they already had. So you've got to give them a break on that one. That's
like someone having a
perspective.
Z80. What they've got for doing their normal stuff is fine, but as soon as they need to do something more. They need
something that's bigger, and you just, an
iPad or something like that, because hell, even they've got more processing power.
Right, exactly. An iPad is a supercomputer compared to what they had in Apollo. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because even a Casio calculator has more processing power than what they had. So it's all relative. What they needed for what they need for that navigation stuff, they need a supercomputer.
It just struck me as a little... That's all.
I think you're being awfully critical on that.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
that is nitpicky.
So the ship jumps, and I gotta tell you, this is one thing where, with Lorca, okay, so we don't have Engage, we don't have Make It So, we don't have Get It Done, we have Go.
Go.
I do wonder if they went to go to use Jump, but then couldn't.
Oh, because of Babylon 5?
Well, I was thinking more about Star Galactica.
Oh, that too, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's one thing where that's just, as somebody who likes catchphrases.
I was gonna say, dude, really?
Yeah, it's just somebody who likes catchphrases, and it didn't bother me. It didn't mean he's less of a commander or anything like that. It made sense. Now, I'll tell you something he did later that I was like, what the hell is going on here? But okay, so we jump to the star. Awesome visuals. Fighting the gravity well of the sun.
Yeah.
That was just fucking awesome. Stamets breaking his nose, I loved. You don't understand. I fucking despise Stamets.
And with me, I laugh every time.
To. Yeah, well, the thing is that you're kind of supposed to. I mean, he's kind of he's a weenie right now.
He's a douche, and if you're gonna complain so much about everything, then just leave the service. We've seen it before in Trek. You can resign. Just leave.
I think he seriously considered it until he heard the audible
of the
distress call
of
the attack on the colony. I think that changed
just got
a lot
on my
of people.
nerves. He gets on my nerves. I had troops like him. Maybe that's why.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, I actually had somebody.
Well, he literally didn't. So that's what makes it twice as funny.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
It's just Lorca just going, then leave the ship. He's like, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I love that about Lorca. He was like, you're free to go anytime.
Then I'm taking all my stuff with me. It's just like, no, you're not.
Somehow I seriously doubt. Because there's no way he's going to let somebody off that ship and live.
Somebody that's a bitcher and a whiner like that, Terry, I can tell you, I was more than happy to let them go.
The problem is that he is one of those people. They just probably blew up a shuttle full of prisoners who saw what was going on. There's no way they're going to let somebody off the ship now. They're going to off them. It's, too much.
Well, the prisoners, they never saw anything. They heard black alert, but they don't. That meant nothing to them. Something strange.
No,
happened.
no.
And
They
with
were
the
walking
prisoners
through
and
the
with
hallway and they were going, "Who has black badges? What's this about? What's all that about?" Even that basic information, if it's supposed to be top secret, they're done. That's why I connected the threat ganglia thing, not with Michael returning to the ship, but with him knowing full well or understanding that that shuttle as it sped away was going to blow up in a very convenient fashion, much like it did on the way to Discovery.
yeah, but their death. Nobody will care if they die. Stamets
What about the
being
pilots
what pilot?
of
How
the
do we know
shuttle?
How do
The
we know it wasn't
pilots
on
fell
remote?
out.
How do we know it wasn't on remote, Terry?
The first time, the
Why
pilots
did they have two
just
pilots
disappeared.
come in that got offed?
Well, no, there's only one pilot.
There was
No,
only
there
one pilot.
there was a guard and there was a pilot. And the guard and the pilot both died on the way in. So you have to
There
assume
was no guard. There was no guard. We talked about that last
she
week.
went outside on the
That
way
was
to
the
Discovery.
pilot.
She
That
went
was the
outside.
pilot.
No,
That
it
was the
wasn't. It was the
pilot.
guard.
And we don't know that she died. That she could have been
Dude,
transported.
she got sucked into space.
Terry,
Yeah,
there was
just
only
before
the pilot.
Discovery.
If I may interject, as soon as the shuttle lands on the gets on Discovery, there is a call to asking an ensign to report to sickbay immediately. There is that voiceover or that announcement, so it could be assumed that they recovered the
pilot.
The pilot. We
Okay.
don't know, but
But either
could be
way,
assumed.
I don't think that was an accident.
I do like the fact, Mike, since you brought up the call over the speaker, I like the fact that they have in the background calls like that. Just kind of a ambiance thing that you hear that quite often in the background. You know, Lieutenant Ceridium, please report to engineering. I like that. It's a small thing, but I like it.
Exactly. Son, see, I'm with you. This is bigger than the Federation. Whatever's going on here, it's obviously Section 31. I think that Discovery and Glenn are not well known or known to be. That's why they had to disappear after they saved the colony, because nobody could see what was supposed to be going on.
Oh, and we're going to get into that.
Yeah. So this is all this big secret thing, and there's no way that Stamets gets off this ship alive. There's no way.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they say there's going to be a gay character?
Well, that's Stamets and the medical officer, their husband.
They haven't said that, though.
Well,
but
why
there-
do they
there-
have
there
to?
was-
Wait
there
till
was this-
can we just let that get there naturally?
No, but that's what I am. Look at you getting defensive. You don't even know what I'm going to say.
Well, you were the one that sounded like you were going to get all huffy.
No, I wasn't. I was going to say I'm pretty confident that after their interaction that those are the ones.
Oh, yeah, that's who it is.
See? You see how defensive she got?
But isn't that great? Because it was just part and parcel of their characters, instead of going, "Oh, hi, husband, how are you?"
Well, I hope they're
it was
exes because
automatically
Stamets is a
natural
dick.
and giving him the side eye, like, "Dude, you broke your nose," you know.
I just like the way he goes, well, I thought I'd fix it anyway, just in case you had a feeling.
Exactly.
And then Lorca plays that broadcast, that distress call. Couldn't he have said, "This is the captain. We're receiving a call. I want everybody to know exactly what it is we're fighting for," or something like that? Instead
No,
of just
because he's a
opening it
drama
up.
king.
All right, I'll get you.
Lorca is a drama king. If there's one thing when it comes to he's in his element now, right? He's Mr. Top Secret, and they're doing things for what he believes is the greater good, and he's for all intent and purposes, he's a tactician and a battle master, right? That's what we know. He's a battle master, and now he's surrounded by a bunch of people who, quote unquote, owe him their allegiance.
The thing is, by not announcing it, it's more of a surprise and a shock to people listening to it, because they don't have any time to think, oh, this is what I'm going to hear. It's
Okay.
just there.
Let me ask you all a question, and this is a serious question. You're at work. You're hard at work. Terry, you're Indianing or whatever you do. Steve, you're Steving. Mike, you're fixing somebody's system. Something comes on in the background without attention. May I have your attention, please? Do you really pay attention, or are you concentrating on your work?
I pay attention.
I pay attention. I mean, yeah. I mean, let's put it this way: if it was something for me, and say, I don't know, something for me that would draw that somebody was trying to get me to pay attention and to focus on why my job is so important.
But you don't know that. It's just something starts playing. It's no different than all of a sudden.
I think you're way overthinking it, Nick.
No, because I'm telling you, when we would be sitting in the chow hall and they would be making announcements, nobody would pay attention. It was just background chatter. And God help me, I'm going to agree with Snowman Frost. They should be trained for such distractions. So if you're doing some spore drive research, and they're just there's that constant, Ensign Silverall report to engineering, that kind of thing, and it's just you tune it out unless you hear your name or attention, this is the captain. You're going to be
but that's the thing. You hear his voice first because he opens the channel, he opens the channel. The computer opens it, then he instructs the computer, which would have been heard over the tannoy, to say, play the recent recording. So you would have heard the captain's voice.
I think he's right. I think he's right.
I was going to type this out, but it's faster to say it. Kushmanzada says, you should never be used to the sound of impending death. I'm sorry. Can I tell you how many times somebody said, you didn't hear the alert for the incoming artillery? And I was like, no, I was working. Because you get so used to the background noise.
Well, there's a risk management nightmare.
Well, I was going to say...
All the new people were under the table. Go ahead.
I was going to say that if you had asked about our specific situations, okay, if something is like background noise, it's easy to tune out. However, something coming over the PA, I guess depending on how frequently it's used, because it's hard to gauge just in the little bit that we've seen how often it's used. But if it's not used often, it's definitely something that you pick up on when it is used. If it's used all the time, then yes, I guess it's easier to dismiss it. So it just it's hard to say, but I would imagine everybody would pay attention. I know that if just because I'm not used to hearing things come over PAs, for me, if something came over the PA, I would pay attention to it just because it would be something that does not happen all the time. But I can understand, if this is old hat, something that happens quite often, then it's easier to tune out. But for me, I would have paid attention.
And not just that, having someone announce something over a tannoy is completely different to what you heard. You heard screams and shouts and explosions. No matter how much you're used to tannoy announcements, you're going to notice that. Because that's a different type of thing being played to you.
Yeah, I think that was just overanalyzed on Nick's behalf. I mean, I understand where he's kind of coming from, but at the same time, when you've got a live feed of people screaming in pain and death, I think you're gonna notice.
Plus, we've already established at the beginning of this episode, these aren't people who are used to this type of job. They are inexperienced, so when they hear that, they're going to pay attention. It's not like they're going to be in the job for lots of years, where they may just overlook something like that because it is background noise. These
So it's
inexperienced
a ship full
people.
of cadets.
It
Well,
might as well
considering the
be for
tactical
this
prowess
situation.
of their lead security officer, yeah.
So we get that down to the little kid saying "mommy," which just I was like, ugh, how, but that it did what it had to do.
That's the whole point of playing that particular one, because that wasn't the same one we heard the first time.
So then, Terry's favorite scene in all of Trek, Landry decides she's going to take action. And lowers the force field and becomes the ultimate red shirt.
Yeah. The moment she walked in the room, I knew what was going to happen. And I kind of went, okay.
We will no longer call it the Darwin Award. It will now be called the Landry Award.
The Landry Award for...
And what bothered me the most about this was, dude, it was Rekha Sharma.
I know.
Oh, you just took some... Oh, never mind. The feminists will get mad if I say what I would say there. Wait a minute. When have I ever cared? You took some serious spank bait off the show.
Dude.
Oh, and then there were people, Terry, you know how I feel about this. There were people complaining. 2 women and non-white women have been killed on this series already. They destroyed how many ships? And it's not like Landry was there forever. She was in 1 episode before this.
Yeah, but you know what? It still passes the Bechdel test. Sweet.
It was a red shirt, what she was.
Her whole decision was to go in there and chop off the... It made no sense to me. She had
of course not.
She had a Klingon blade. She had already established that Klingon weaponry did not work against...
exactly. She already knew that a phaser set on kill wasn't going to do anything. And yet, what does she do?
She went in there with the intention of A, putting it to sleep, B, chopping off one of its claws, and it's like
using a tool she knew wouldn't work.
This is what when we were playing Adventures, Kush had not seen the episode yet, Terry.
Okay.
Rick and I were talking, or was it Mario? It was Mario and I were talking around what happened so that we didn't ruin it for Kush. And my comment was, I hate it when characters do stupid things due to stupid writing. And
I
this
agree.
was stupid writing.
I agree. This was bad writing. It was trope. Stereotypical asshole tactician, doesn't care about what the science officer says and the warnings they receive, blah, 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 blah.
She knew better going in because it was her own words. She knew.
She was what, a
to
commander?
me, she was just trying to prove something to Lorca and also to prove something to Burnham, saying, I don't give a crap what you think.
But it's
that was
Rekha Sharma.
And therein lies the problem, is that, I saw her from the point we first see her when she starts bringing in the guards to when she allows the guards to fight and let them figure out themselves. What guard is going to let a fight occur in a mess? I'm sorry. You take those sons of bitches down. You clean it up. You keep the shit from happening. And she was just this stereotypical aggressive for no reason. And here's the thing. I don't care what the reason is. She was bad. She was bad.
To me,
she just came bad officer, and she deserved to die.
To me, she was just too prideful, and people like that, they do stupid things.
It was just stupid. She was poorly, one-dimensionally, stupidly written. There. Bleh. It was dumb. I mean, seriously, you put that character in any other movie, and she ends up being that same. It's a stereotypical, aggressive tactician, fight for fight's sake. We don't care what anybody else says. I'm butch enough. I'm bad enough. I'm going to take it down despite my own brain telling me what I can't do. It was so bad. It was so bad.
Kush is being so Air Force right now, and he knows he's doing it just to get a rise out of me. This dude is worse than Jellicoe. Everybody's worse than Jellicoe.
Well, yeah.
No, they're not.
I laughed. When
Yeah.
she died, I laughed. I was like, good, fucking bitch. Deserved it.
Then
And on top of it, tardigrade, man. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, the best way this whole show could end is by the tardigrade taking out and doing to it what it did to the Glen.
Do you think that what happened to Glenn was on purpose?
no.
Was on purpose? No. I think it was an accident, and I think the tardigrade finally had enough.
Yeah, no.
And then Lorca says that they have to find a way to use Ripper, or Landry's life will have been in vain, or something like that. And I'm sorry, I just don't see Michael getting that worked up about Landry's memory.
I don't see Michael getting worked up about a lot of people on
No,
this
but you know
ship.
what I'm
I
saying?
really don't.
If it had been Tilly and it had been some kind of bizarre accident, that would have gotten to her, or even Saru. You know what I mean? But even if Saru had walked in and said, "I'm gonna kill it," and lowered the shield and got ripped apart, she would have been, "Come on, dude, you're threat ganglii. Should have known." So anyway, we get to the Shenzhou, and did you notice this was a nice little bookend, if you want, how the camera zoomed in on the bridge the same way it did in the first scene of the first episode, or in the first episode, not the first scene, but in the first episode.
Yeah, I didn't notice it per se, but now that you say it, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
With that,
So-
well, the fact that the Shenzhou had that really cool underside bridge,
Yeah.
that was just cool on its own.
So Albino and Peanut Butter, they flirt and take what they need. Okay.
You were breaking up. It was hard for me to hear. What?
I said the Albino and Peanut Butter take what they need from the Shenzhou. After talk about, my lord and all of that, they do some heavy duty flirting. It reminded me of the series Rome, which is not a bad thing.
I was gonna say I like that. I like the fact that you're seeing the kind of political machinations of the Klingons. I'm liking that.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a problem with that, except Peanut Butter Mouth. And
when they uncouple.
Yeah, they uncouple. Yeah, I caught that. I actually laughed at that.
Me too.
Then we go back and Burnham's talking to Saru, and once again, threat ganglia drink are mentioned because they're not coming out when he's around Ripper. And maybe he's not dangerous, just misunderstood. Michael, who can you be talking about? I don't know. You know what they ought to have called this? The Horda. That's what they should have called it.
But isn't
Maybe.
that the same with a lot of things in life? How many times are people or things judged because someone either hears something or sees something at one small point in time, and then they're judged based on that small act? And that happens repeatedly through everybody's life.
Let me ask you, and I mean this seriously, since we're halfway through October, how do you judge Michael Myers from the movie Halloween? Is he a danger, or is he just misunderstood? Because that's what Ripper has been up until this point.
I think he's just got really bad acne and needs some decent cream. That's why he wears the mask. Nobody gives it to him.
I don't know how to respond to that, Steve. Really don't. That's well played.
Oh, jeez. Well,
But you see what I'm saying? All Ripper has done is kill people. That's not one action. That's a lot of one actions.
All he did was kill Klingons. He didn't
No.
kill the
Self-defense.
crew.
He came after the crew when they
No,
were
he
on the
did
ship.
not.
No,
Well, he didn't.
Chased her through the tunnel.
Well, yeah, because
They
again,
started
Remember
firing.
shit? It worked.
He attacked the Klingon. Federation started shooting at him. So he attacked the Klingon who had been chasing him. Federation then shoot at him. He then
And
went
we're
after
judging
him
him
afterwards.
based on him going after them for shooting. How about judging them for shooting at him?
or so now he's in or she, we don't know yet. In on the Discovery, and they keep him locked up, and then Burnham figures out that the Glenn was using him as the sorely needed supercomputer.
I don't think they were.
They were.
They were. Burnham even
that would be
shows in
very
photos.
clear.
She gives that technobabble that says that they notice he's communicating with the spores. He's sniffing them and communicating, or what was he eating them? I couldn't tell.
It's just we don't know. It doesn't say that he's eating them, but he's definitely interacting with them.
Yeah, he's interacting, but I couldn't tell if he was like sniffing them up or it was hard for me to tell.
I
But
think he is eating them as well, but there's also an interaction between them at the same time from the way Burnham was sort of describing it.
I wasn't sure. I laughed out loud, but it's still I wasn't sure what to think when Hammett said he always wanted to converse with his mushrooms. I laughed, but
It's just the way he goes, oh, that's not fair.
you know who he reminded me of in that scene? Wash from Firefly.
A little bit.
Didn't that seem like something Wash would say?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
am a leaf on the wind.
I want to hear Mike's take on that. Mike, do you? The tardigrade on the Glenn.
Has Mike returned?
I don't. Oh, did he step away? I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
hear. Oh, okay. Well, we'll wait till he gets back.
Yeah, we'll
before
wait
I
till he
ask him.
gets back. Because, by the way, so we go back to the Klingon ship where they're all chowing down like it's, Game of Thrones. And I'm sorry, but son, you are ugly, son of none. I'm going to use that from now on as a put down. Really, son of none? Just leave.
But then with Klingons, to be without a house has always been something that was looked down upon. That was one of the reasons with
No,
Worf
I know.
in
It just
TNG.
cracked me up. Somebody on social media said, what would be a better insult? And I said, your father's a vegetarian.
Especially for a Klingon, yeah.
She walks over, she takes a drumstick, and the food was cooked. Did you notice the food was cooked? I noticed the food was cooked. But they go back.
Klingons don't always eat things raw. We know from DS9 that there's lots of ways to prepare gak. Sometimes they ask for it specifically to be alive, or more alive or dead. There are different ways to serve it, so it would be the same with all food.
I need to check then, because I remember Kern at the dinner where he doesn't kill anybody at the supper table, saying that they don't cook their food.
Some things are cooked, some things are not.
Okay. Oh, he's back. Okay, Terry had a question for you.
I was gonna say, there seems to be a little bit of a confusion between us as to why the tardigrade was on the Glenn. It sounded to me like the tardigrade entered the Glenn when it was following the spores.
Right, I'm with you there.
And that they may have made the same discovery that they did about him being that kind of supercomputer, or was it just a chance kind of coincidence that he happened to enter the ship at the same time they failed in their, or did the
That's how I
Glenn
took it.
fail in its jump first, then the tardigrade enters looking for the spores, and then the Klingons were the unfortunate victims?
I think the tardigrade, it came on the Glen with the stuff that it with the mushrooms, with the mushrooms themselves.
After they leaked out after the failed jump. So the crew was all twisted up and dead before the tardigrade came on board.
The tardigrade was there already.
They've been trying to jump for a long time. They've been testing this for months.
Without the tardigrade?
Yeah, but basically at one point when they stocked up with mushrooms, which contain the spores, the tardigrade had basically stowed away. But then it obviously got discovered, which is what Burnham says, is basically...
My initial
Dunn
thoughts...
is saying that they didn't grow spores, it collected them.
Yes, from the mushrooms. That's what the Glen picked up.
The Glen shipped in mushrooms that were already that had already been harvested from these forests, and I believe, and this was my initial thought, that the tardigrade, I believe the tardigrade actually started off much smaller in order to be smuggled aboard, and I suspect that these jumps that they had experimented with, the smaller ones that were successful, I believe that those were, that somehow it grew larger because of the way that they were conducting the experiment.
So the Glen picked them up by accident.
It came aboard with the rest of the mushrooms.
Yeah,
Okay.
I never had the feeling that the Glen was using it for navigation. That was something Michael figured out.
Discovered. Okay. I thought maybe she discovered what the Glen was doing. Okay.
The Glen was using the tardigrade for navigation. That's
I never
why
picked that up.
They had all the equipment in order to do it, especially the things with the foot long daggers.
That's what I was saying, is that I was under the impression what Michael had done was that she kind of back engineered the devices that they had and then figured out after going, why were you on this ship? Why were you on this ship? Why were you? And then it figured out that they had finally figured out that maybe the tardigrade was a key to, not necessarily navigation, but the key to the jumping.
They observed what she did, which was that it interacted with the.
But my
spores
question
in a
was,
very
is why did
specific
theirs
way.
fail? Yeah.
And why did...
And that's why I think it was intentional. That I mentioned that last week, and I think the tardigrade was getting tired of getting poked and prodded with those damn foot-long daggers, and it purposefully ran into that thing that ended up killing the crew.
Okay, now I see what you're saying.
I think it was intentional.
Okay,
and
I misunderstood you the first time. I thought you meant intentional on behalf of Starfleet or the Glen, not intentional on behalf of the tardigrade.
It was intentional on behalf of the tardigrade. It wanted everything to stop, and I'm sure it knew how fragile humans were.
Or it escaped mid-jump.
Wait, so how smart is a tardigrade then?
Apparently,
we don't know.
Very much so, because it has it has a supercomputer for a brain.
I mean, it's got the entire map of the known galaxy in its brain.
Yeah, this thing, I have a feeling, is more intelligent than we are led to believe at this point, and that by the end of the series, it's going to be wearing a Starfleet uniform.
Jesus.
Well, maybe not the last part, but I would love to see it in a Starfleet uniform. This thing is, for lack of a better term, it's sentient. We just don't know it yet.
Nobody's tried to talk to it.
Yeah,
notice that.
And sadly, Michael isn't a Vulcan, so she can't mind meld with it. But if she could, if Spock was there, he would totally know that this thing was smart.
And therein lies where we all know that this is going. We all know. I mean, it's not like these writers are we all know where this is going. it's been foretold, it's been foreshadowed. This is going to be a discussion as to, um, other species communication, slavery, and/or testing or use of other species in order to further technology. It's all of those moral quandaries and discussions. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see whether or not it ends up wearing a Starfleet uniform, or is the ultimate demise of Discovery, or its tests. We don't know.
Everybody, I put it in the same boat as a Horta. Everybody wants to see a Horta in Starfleet wearing a modified uniform. I want to see this tardigrade in a uniform. I believe it's sentient enough.
I don't disagree.
So. And
but we're going to have to get through the moral play.
Yeah, they need, stupid humans have to figure it out themselves.
Well, especially stupid humans who are now focused on survival and war. Yeah. And their focus, and especially Lorca and this team, is how do we protect those that we love, as the colonists and our own planets. And would you not use any means to achieve those goals?
Well, speaking of the protecting the planets and stuff, they go to the Corvan 3, Corvan 2, whatever the planet was. They're being attacked to the point where we get the little urchin crying, the tear-streaked face. And I just thought, is Michael Bay directing this right now? Because and so the Discovery jumps in. I didn't understand Lorca holding his hands out. Like, I get it. It almost reminded me of a conductor, which I was okay with, but it just, I don't know. It looked a little weird, but I'm still okay with that. He orders them to jump. The Klingon ships get sucked in. They blow up. And the people look up with Armageddon by Michael Bay type wonder and think, who saved? Visually amazing. I don't know if I would have gone with the looking up, such awe and wonder. It just, I don't know.
You wouldn't have got with the survivors looking up?
They're looking up at
where the ships that were raining fire down upon them disappeared.
Just the way it was filmed, it was like,
so it's a directorial.
It was criticism. A directorial thing, yeah.
Okay.
And great scene though, visually just amazing.
Yeah, that was very cool. I enjoyed that a lot. I thought,
for those that say Lorca is not a tactician, that was a pretty sweet move he came up with.
Oh, yeah. No, that was cool.
Garth wouldn't have done that. He would have sold things.
But you got to see how novice the crew was for combat situations, in the fact that they were so eager and ready to leave, or to react rather than holding their ground like Lorca wanted. Everyone wanted to do something, but he was like, wait for it.
It was like, yeah, he was doing the mental calculations in his head.
Yeah, he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and the crew you got to see didn't really trust. I don't know if they didn't trust him, or if
I don't think they trust themselves.
That's probably what it is. They were almost panicking a little bit, but
and I'm with you on that, Mike, and that's a really good point on, again, showing the inexperience that any Starfleet crew really has in battle situations. And
well, I would say that if they're on a conventional, and I'm using air quotes but you can't see it, and I'm using Vulcan hand salute air quotes, on a normal ship, but because this ship has the spore drive and it's so different, this is not something that they've practiced. You saw them practicing conventional writing earlier. This was not something that he practiced with them before, because it's almost like, how can you practice it until he
Yeah, he
doing
didn't,
it at the
he didn't
time.
know that the spore drive was going to be working until he actually needed to have it working. And then at that point, it was like, you know what, I'm going to pull this shit out of my ass, and it's going to work because it has
I,
to.
I didn't get the feeling he was pulling it out of his ass. I had the feeling he was full confident in what his
Oh,
plan was.
he was, but
Plus, he was listening all the time to the
Gee, it
readouts of the
sounds an
crew.
awful lot like a certain Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
Because
Or
the whole
Cisco.
time he's getting shield readings from Saru. Shield
Yeah.
at 35%, 20%. So he's waiting to the last possible moment, because when they go into the jump, their shields get dropped. So they take the shields down anyway. So he's waiting to the last possible moment, drop shields, jump.
yeah,
He's
waiting
drawing him
for
into
the
a perfect
Klingons
ambush.
to be in the right place at the right time. If their shields fell before they were in the position, he still would have waited.
Yeah.
He wanted them in the right place at the right time, and that was close enough for them to be affected by the torpedo detonation, without them being able to react to it. That's what he wanted.
What
them in the
torpedo?
exact.
I thought that they got pulled into some kind of gravity well when the ship jumped.
No,
No.
they dumped about half a dozen torpedoes.
Yeah, they fired.
Oh, okay. I missed that. Here's the problem I had. When I was watching it,
they jumped.
it was very laggy. It would like play for 20 seconds
Oh,
and then
you need
stop.
to watch it again then.
Okay. Yeah,
You
because
definitely need to
it would
watch it
play for
again.
like 20 seconds and stop. And
Yeah,
then
you
there would be like
see
a
it-
minute of buffering.
You see, like, it must be at least half a dozen torpedoes, it looks, that are
Just
being used as
floating.
mines. So the ships then smack into them, big explosions.
Yeah.
So then these Klingon ships all basically ran into each other.
Well, they ran into the torpedoes.
Into the torpedoes.
They had no
Okay.
time to react. That was the point. Give them no time to be able to react and get away from the torpedoes. So he had to wait there until they were close enough to where they would not be able to maneuver. And as soon as they jumped. They were gone. The torpedoes were left behind, and the Klingons had no reaction time. They were dead. The moment that they jumped away, and there was no opportunity. They were dead.
So they jump out of there, and then we go to the Shenzhou again, where Vok, Peanut Butter Boy, is on the ship by himself, and then Albino shows up. And did I hear her correctly that her planet is...
Vok is the albino.
No, L'Rell is the albino.
No,
No.
she's not.
No.
He is.
He is.
It's just most of the time we've seen him either with gold because of the hologram at the beginning, or then it ended up blue when he was at the dilithium processor. So you didn't really get to see his white skin at that particular point.
But he is the albino. And I think I might have mentioned last week, I wonder, is he the albino that Kor, Koloff, and the others were talking about? Because he is an albino, for one, which is a rare thing, but not, there's probably others. But Kol is of the House of Kor, so there is a connection between the two. So I'm just wondering if it's the same albino.
I would love it. I think that would
I
be
would
great.
love it as well. I
Yeah.
thought
That
Yeah,
would
but
be a
was-
nice piece of continuity.
But wasn't the albino that he wasn't a Klingon? That was a different alien.
I don't think it was
Or-
ever specified.
I don't think he ever was really specified, but to me he could fall into this particular group of Klingons. But we'll see.
So then the other ones... Did she say that her planet is a planet of matriarchs?
Yes. Her house is run by females, yes.
Then we go back, and Burnham is given some heroin to Ripper, and she goes back to her quarters, and the package is still beeping. The smoke alarm still does not have a new battery. And
I think she kind of did that to herself on purpose.
Tilly says,
I think she did it. I think she did it to annoy herself to continue to kind of self berate herself over anything that had to do with JoJo.
and Tilly tells her, "Wow, you saved us. Boy, looks like you could be forgiven." And then the after
You
school
build a
special
new
stuff
reputation
starts.
for herself. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they play the ABC after school special music. No, I'm kidding. Nobody? Harry, are you the only
I
one
got
that
it.
remembers those?
I got it,
Okay.
but I was coughing.
So, he plays the message. I'm sure you have your own ship by now. Ooh, ow, ah, burn. Need an analgesic cream for that, Michael?
She didn't know.
No, I know, and that's why it hurts all the
no-
more.
She had
That's why it
no
hurts all the
idea-
more.
Yeah, I mean, she had no idea the series of events that would lead to her death, and Michael's
That she would
involvement.
leave her most prized possession to the person who killed her.
Yes, a telescope, which was a nice callback to the pilot.
And there's been, I've seen a debate, people going round and round about whether or not this is the same telescope that was seen in the pilot.
It was when you go back to the Shenzhou later on. All you've got is the apparatus it was put in. The telescope was obviously taken when parts of the ship were removed at some point by the Federation.
So there you have it.
Sunsale
They
brings up
go
a great
back
question.
and they get the fucking telescope, but they leave the warp drive.
And the Klingon ship.
Well, they
And the
didn't
Klingon
leave the
ship
warp
just
drive.
sits there being untouched.
No, they left the
with a
dilithium
cloaking device.
processor. They probably took all the other bits that they needed,
Again,
but it's one
leaving
small
an entire
part.
disabled enemy ship just astern.
And Mike, I like to pick on the Klingons because, well, they're Klingons. But 6 months at war, all these houses, none of them until now, 6 months later, have decided to go back for this cloaking device. That does not strike me as very Klingon at all.
I don't know.
Let's just call it for what it is. This is a huge writing gap, you guys.
Well,
It's
no,
huge.
not necessarily. Remember
Oh, please.
that.
Steve.
No, hang on. The cathedral ship wasn't disabled until after all the other ships were took off. So
But they didn't. They've had 6 months, Steve.
6 months.
The smart
but
thing
the
thing to do would have been to still send a party over, a ship over, to scavenge whatever they could from whatever was left
This
over.
is a ship in fucking
If it
Federation space.
If it had a cloaking
The
device,
feds would have been all over it. It's in
They should have
Federation's
been.
territory. This isn't even like in neutral territory. This
Right.
battle took place in Federation space.
yes, but the Federation are on the defensive. They're
From a fucking ship that could have given them a tactical advantage by going in and wiping out what was inside. If there was anything that Burnham did, she took down the leader, and they have nothing left, right? They were eating people. It's not like this was what was left was a huge fucking army. They could have taken them out singular in a fashion, quick. I'm sorry, you don't leave an enemy ship just out there along with any of yours. They scuttled the Glen. Why didn't they scuttle the Shenzhou?
they should have.
the Shinzo's an old ship. They probably thought they'd go back for the carcass at a later time to reuse the metals.
Don't leave old ships or any tech. You scuttle it. You don't leave it in enemy hands. And even better, if we had an enemy ship that was just laying around for 6 months, you fucking send your techs in to go get it. You go get it.
It's an enemy ship. You can reverse engineer. You can find out how their tech works, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, both sides should have been in a rush to get their hands on that cloaking device.
It was just
Both
a
sides
huge,
But
really
neither
bad,
side
very lazy
didn't
writing
bother.
mistake. It was a
Yeah.
bad writing mistake.
Both sides should have been going after that cloaking device, but neither side bothered until Cole decided to show up, which, okay, whatever. But I still enjoyed the episode.
It was fun.
But I'm not getting where people going, now this is Trek.
Yeah, I'm not either yet. I'm really not.
For
We'll
that
see.
episode specifically. Because she figured out the alien could help them. That I liked the episode before this one a whole lot better.
You know, it was interesting. It was actually Cushy and I were messaged just a few things this week. And he brought up something that I thought was quite fascinating. It was another opinion that I don't think that very many people hold. But I see where he's coming from, and I can't necessarily disagree. He thinks that Burnham is too perfect. He doesn't see her as a flawed character. And I have to kind of take a step back and think about it. And he's right.
Because everything she's done has been actually correct.
Exactly.
But people don't see it that way.
She is not flawed. She did everything she done. Everything she said, every move she's made has been the right move. Tactically, logically, she is perfect. She has no flaws. She hasn't made one mistake except for killing Takuvma. That's her only mistake.
And that was her human emotions.
And that was human nature. That wasn't
That
anything
But
else.
she was
That
also in a battle. He had just killed the captain, so of course she
yeah,
should kill him.
yeah.
Of course, yeah, that's what I mean. Is that
yeah.
it was a technical mistake, but was it a psychiatric mistake? No.
No,
You
she was
react with
she was in a
fury.
war.
She
I
was defending her captain. So he's right. Cushy's right. So far, I have to say, we're dealing with a very, very, very razor's edge Mary Sue.
But then we are only still a couple of episodes into the season.
Until we can find out whether or not this woman's got a flaw, everyone around her is flawed. She's a fucking goddess in comparison.
But the same could be said in some respects to Stamets.
And everyone. Lorca, Stamets, every officer around her. Saru, he's kind of a jackass. Everyone around her is an asshole. She's the only one that hasn't made a technical mistake.
Except for Tilly.
Tilly is beautiful.
I love Tilly. But could it be that her desire to punish herself for what she did, could that be considered a flaw for her?
If she suffers a problem from it, yes. But so far she hasn't. She's only been rewarded for her guilt so far.
I think it's a little bit harder to judge the characters so far due to the nature of the way the series is told. Whereas, as I've mentioned before on other casts,
yeah, okay.
each episode of Star Trek was usually like a book in itself.
All right.
But then this series, it's more like each episode is like a chapter in a book.
All right. Here's the thing. Even in Vanguard, Reyes, which is very, very much like this series, you guys, you have to read Vanguard. You have to. At least those characters were flawed, and even Diego Reyes was flawed. He was kind of an ass to a point where it took me 3 books to forgive him. So far, there's nothing for me to forgive her about because she's right. But I'm going to tell you about what Kojiro and I were talking about. So let me see if I get this right.
I know, he's in the chat room jumping up and
down.
Oh
my God,
Terry,
he is. He's
Terry!
totally, and he's right because he has a script doctor that would have fixed this from the very beginning. And that was, instead of the supposed traitorous or mutinous decision that she makes being her quote unquote flaw, which it wasn't. It should have been that she should have been the person to go to Giorgio and say, Giorgio, you have to do this. You have to use the Vulcan hello. And Giorgio should have used it. And it still would have failed. Georgiou would have been alive, but she would have been court-martialed. That would have been the flaw. That's how it should have gone. The Vulcan hello should have failed. And it was all her
having
idea.
to live with that
So now
guilt.
she has to live with the guilt of taking down a captain who trusted her.
But then you wouldn't have had Burnham fighting her the way the Vulcan logic was given to her as a child growing up, and all that training and what she's been learning as for more of a human side with Georgiou. Part of that whole thing was her battling her human and Vulcan sort of training over the last so many years. That was part of that whole point, is she did what was logically correct.
And emotionally for her, she saw this. Yeah. She was emotionally connected. I don't think it would have I don't think that would have played any differently. I think that you're dealing, and Georgiou didn't have to die. I think that was, I think it was a tropey thing. I think that mutiny was unnecessary and stupid. It didn't work anyway. And then the moment that, Georgiou trusted her to go capture them, that ended up being, no, I think that Alan had a really great idea, and that was, having the one thing that the Federation never does, right? The Federation never shoots first. To have them make the mistake of having the Federation shoot first and still and having to end up in a war, I think that would have been the penultimate bad mistake.
Yeah, and because as we saw from the Klingon portion of that episode, we knew that they were just itching for war anyway. So it would not have taken any kind of provocation.
Exactly.
The Vulcan hello would have been something the traditional Klingons, regular Klingons, would have respected. But these are not traditional regular Klingons.
Exactly. And T'Kuvma would have twisted it and went, see, it wouldn't have mattered. He was there to start a war. It wouldn't have mattered what the response was. So have them do exactly what she was, pushing, going, you have to trust me. You have to trust me. You have to trust me. And then have her trust her, have it end up in war anyway. And now you're dealing with a severely career battered person. Oh my God, that would have been so much more powerful.
And not knowing that he was not a traditional Klingon on the other side.
Exactly. Because they never bothered to find out.
Well, they tried.
Mikey.
No, they assumed.
No, they tried to contact them, but there was no response. They were
talking to him the whole
time.
No, not initially.
But they were passing.
Vok ignored all transmissions.
He didn't answer back. He was still alive. He was still yakking. He was still threatening.
Not talking to them, not to the Starfleet. That did not happen until after the battle commenced.
It would have been interesting.
The first time that T'Kuvma made himself known was really after the battle had started, and he thought he had the upper hand, and that's when the ship, the Admiral's ship showed up.
Well, either way, I
remember
think
because he was like, okay, let's he had agreed. Yeah, we'll talk this out. Yeah, and then behind, once the channel was closed, we're gonna ram them. We're gonna destroy them.
So here's the thing: if she had come through, and it said, you are in Federation territory, we will defend ourselves vigorously. How do you think that would have been instead of we come in peace? You're on your own fucking turf. You don't say we come in peace. You say we will defend ourselves vigorously.
Huh? I think that would have put some egg on T'Kuvma's face, because up to this point, that was his point. Was, they say they come in peace, but they really don't.
It would have been I found that frustrating, because I'm like, wait a minute, they're on their own turf.
Because his point was that the Federation are trying to assimilate the Klingon culture and make them softer. And he's trying to bring together all the Klingon houses to fight together.
Right.
If they
And
had
he's
just
doing it
opened up
by
firing,
entering somebody else's territory.
Terry, that's the thing. I'm not exactly sure that this was all along Federation territory. I think this might have been territory that the Federation
No, they
eventually
said it was.
annexed.
They
No,
said
they
it
were
was.
very clear.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I think this may have been at one time, way back in the past. This might have been Klingon territory. That beacon wasn't anything that moved. That beacon had been there for a long time. So I believe initially this might have been Klingon territory. The Federation, because of their expansion, because of their "I come in peace" and let's all be friends and come join, let us assimilate you. The Federation border expanded, and this territory was annexed. That's what I think is going on. But the Klingon beacon, I believe that was there for a long time, and I don't believe that it was it was originally in Federation space. I believe this was initially Klingon space that slowly over time was annexed by the Federation.
All right, geeks, get to it. Figure that out for us.
But I'm going to agree with Terry on this. I don't see somebody winding up in Santa Fe and our government being like, "We come in peace."
No, we would absolutely come forward and say, especially if we believed it was our territory, we're going to say we're going to defend our territory aggressively. Do not enter. I mean,
Yeah.
For all intent and purposes, the sarcophagus ship plus this was an invasion force.
Well, at first it was just the sarcophagus ship.
Right.
The others came later, but
and all of those other ships showing up, I don't think would have been, gee whiz, I think they're here to make friends. It would have been perceived as an invasion force, and you don't say, "Oh, we come in peace."
Those ships arrived first, but they were called for second. The Starfleet had already called for backup for the one.
No, I was talking about the Klingon ships. I'm sorry.
The Klingon ships arrived first, but they
Right.
were called for second.
yeah,
Starfleet had already called for their backup.
Yeah, Takuvma didn't call for reinforcements until the signal for reinforcements went out, because there's actually a line where he goes that, as you expected, that they've called for reinforcements. There's a bit on that.
Well,
and that's when you actually
and again,
get
this is a guy who's twisting and using every opportunity, because what he wanted eventually was war. This wasn't somebody who was going to take a no violent response in any way, shape, or form. So it wouldn't have mattered what Starfleet's response was. It wouldn't have mattered.
Mikey. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Mikey, Klingons.
What?
You've had something you wanted to talk about them.
And we have time. I feel like we put him on the spot. We're kind of pulling him out of his train of thought.
Yeah.
No, was it something that you didn't get to really talk about last week?
Well,
with
there's
regards...
a lot about the Klingons that I haven't had a chance to talk about.
I know. And your opinion is, and as is mine, is that Takuvma's clan aren't quote unquote normal Klingons.
That is correct. They are, for a lack of a better description, they are a cult. They are, they're trying to. They say that they want to take the Empire back to Kahless's teachings. Now, but I don't know if that is Kahless's truth teachings or if it's some interpretation of Kahless's teachings. And I have just like, I'm not calling these religions cults, but they do offer a different view on the biblical text. Okay, so you have like the Baptists and the Lutherans, and although we have not seen anything like that in the when it comes to Klingon culture, that's what Dukovna's teachings remind me of. It's almost like a different interpretation of what is known, or of quote unquote the good book. But the way they act, what they are doing is much more cult-like than some of those human religion equivalents would be. So it's not really. I don't think I'm doing a good.
No, I think I understand where you're coming from. I don't disagree. Is again a different or a more fundamentalist, more literal understanding of what their original teachings were, and pushing forward that idea because it helps served Dukovna's goals. His personal goals were to create and to essentially take power over all the houses. Let's face it.
Yeah, and I believe his teachings, what he wants, this unity in a time of war against one enemy is what the Empire needs. However, it's also very dangerous. It will lead to the destruction of the Empire if it's maintained beyond this one event, this one battle. Not battle, but this one war. The Empire will not be able to survive prolonged unity. They are too aggressive. They are too warrior-like. Their nature is to fight. So what happens if they defeat the Federation?
They're left to fight amongst themselves.
They have to go back to fighting amongst themselves. That's how it's like a group of puppies. Okay, you put a group of puppies together. They're gonna fight. They're gonna wrestle. They're not gonna really hurt each other. But it's how they get stronger and better, right? But if without that, if a unified empire, without having the ability to wean their teeth, to sharpen their teeth on each other, that means that they have to take it out on the next guy, on the next empire, on the next people they come across, and that is not sustainable. Eventually, all they're going to do is piss off all their neighbors, and that's going to cause everybody to unify against them. The empire will not survive that. Cannot survive that.
And isn't
they have to have this disorder, this civil unrest amongst themselves in order to grow stronger, in order to use that part of themselves, to keep that part of themselves, going or without being destructive. I don't know if that's making any sense, but that's how I feel about what Dukovna's message was. It's dangerous for the Empire. Very dangerous.
Isn't that what I've been arguing for all these years, where people think I'm picking on the Klingons? Is that this whole honor thing and all of that, and
well, it's not honor.
This growly fight is. I don't understand why people think that's so wonderful, because it doesn't do anything but cause issues.
See, I think Cole he understands Klingons much better than Dukovna does.
Exactly.
Cole understands the Klingon heart. He knows that our need to fight supersedes our need for unity. Right? He knows that Klingons have to fight. That we have to fight, and fighting amongst each other only makes them stronger. It allows them to test out new weapons, allows them to test out new things, allows them to grow stronger by constantly proving against themselves how to improve themselves. But as soon as they stop doing that, then the only people that have to test
But
themselves.
think of how
against this.
dangerous they are when they do come together, right?
Oh yeah,
And that's
they
the
are
thing.
a force.
And that's the thing. I think you're right. I think that Cole understands that. I think Takuvma missed the boat. I think that Volk is about to learn a lot about political machinations and manipulation. And it'll be an interesting thing to watch. What's interesting though is that now we're dealing with a show that precedes everything we already know with what eventually happens with the Klingon Empire. And so I'm interested to see this kind of evolutionary step for them.
It's certainly interesting, and I mean, a lot of people who say, oh, like Nick, who believes that the Klingons are, you know, that this need to fight and battle is not sustainable. For them, it is sustainable. It's the only way they can survive
until they run out of enemies and they wipe themselves out.
The thing is, they won't
Cautionary
wipe them.
tale, don't
they
you
will
think?
not. I don't think they will wipe themselves out.
Well,
I don't think they fight each other as hard.
Or
as,
they weaken themselves so much that they get overrun, a la Rome.
Exactly. Or even well, again, because we do understand what happens, thinking about it that way, Mike, I think you're right. I think that for saying that they fight amongst themselves is poor grammar. I think they spar.
I think it's like sparring, just like the analogy I use with puppies.
Right.
Okay.
They don't bite hard, but they bite.
They bite because they're testing themselves. They're training. They're making themselves. They're sparring. That's exactly what it is. They're sparring against. They're not going full hog against one another to kill each other. Yeah, people die. Klingons kill Klingons. Yeah, they do damage, but they don't try to literally wipe out everybody, because that in the long run that hurts themselves. Okay, but it little battles, little things here, little machinations there, it does make them stronger because it gets that aggression out without without creating.
Because look what happens
damage.
into the TNG era. They've gotten to the point where they are.
That is the downside of this. You get corruption, and that is corruption.
They blame others because, oh, this house is too big to fail, and what's it cost them?
Sadly, that there are people that are dishonorable. I mean, sadly, but again, I think the Klingon as a whole they have to fight. They have to, that's how they've been born and bred. Their entire species.
Sunsail says, Nick the Romulan, you can't just keep fighting every fish and fly you see. Terry the Fed, guys, it's wrong to fight, except the Borg. Fuck Borg.
Yeah, but did you notice what I said? Nick the Romulan, yeah, poison the lake and you take out all of it.
Mike the Klingon, can't I just worship Michaelis in peace? Why you bitches yelling at me?
It's true, though. It's great. Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating, Mike, to see this kind of the different clan, so to speak, and how and now that it really is just two of them, right? Because Cole just took everybody.
Yeah, and Laress, or whatever her name is, coming from a matriarchal house, that is going to be interesting to see. Something else that kind of came to my mind. I'm wondering, and I doubt it is, but Valk is from the House of None, meaning none is not the none as in zero, as
yes.
It's not an actual house. Some people were saying it's the House of Non. No,
what?
It's not the House of Non.
No,
He
there
has
is no house. Oh my
he
God.
has no house.
No,
So-
they made a point in the pilot
Well, some
of saying
people
that.
apparently missed that.
Oh
But
my God.
I have a feeling that he's actually from the House of Duras. Just like Worf, or excuse me, when Alexander, when he joined the KDF force in DS9, okay, he said that he has no house, but obviously he was of the house of Moog, just like Worf was, right? I'm wondering, is Voq actually a descendant of Duras from Enterprise? And because of his failures against Archer and the Enterprise, he lost his house, he lost his standing, and is Voq a descendant? And now he's trying to regain some of his power, trying to rebuild
That'll be
some
interesting.
honor. I'm wondering, could Voq be Voq of the House of Duras, but because the house has
Well,
been...
he would have been shunned away from the house or kicked out of the house due to his birth. I mean, due to his
being an albino as
albinism.
well.
Yeah.
I'm wondering. I mean, I don't know which one it is. I mean, it's either he's the albino from that core in Koloff, and
Who's to say they're not one and the same?
that could be, or is he House of Duras that he's just I don't know. It's interesting, and the fact that now there's this matriarch, which for me calls back to B'Etor and Lursa and B'Etor. I mean, it's just like some interesting parallels. There's some interesting parallels,
especially
about this
if we find out that they rely a little bit on some Romulan tech,
which also is interesting. I mean, here he is. He had a ship with a cloaking device.
Yep.
Okay.
But they've had it forever.
Which they've had forever. We do know that eventually Klingons get cloaking devices from Romulans. Perhaps this is Voq and the House of Modoc or whatever.
Right.
Perhaps there's going to be some kind of negotiating going on. Perhaps this. Well, I don't know. I'm curious to see how it goes.
I want to get to something Terry said. This honorable Klingon society, but you get kicked out for being an albino. Come on, Mike, defend it. Defend it.
Not he. Yeah.
There's Klingons view strength, and sadly, not all of them see strength for what strength truly is. Sometimes, it stops at skin deep. Sadly, that is an issue that not only Klingons suffer from.
And you emulate.
There are a bunch of
the Romulans are all so great about that, except for the fact. Well, wait, we'll discuss that later.
Remans are not Romulans. Remans are a lesser race.
I wasn't discussing that.
More than just humans have issues with.
Yeah, but no, you're right, Nick. Yeah, that's exactly it. The Romulans have the same problem.
No, they don't. Remans are not Romulans.
That's what I mean. But how many if you're weak, you're weak. You're shut it out. Except for the fact that they absolutely allowed a half Romulan in and become very, very powerful.
But they created. Remember,
Who?
They cloned him.
No, I'm not talking about Shinzon.
Oh. Are you talking about Tasha? Not Tasha. What's her name?
Yeah.
Sela. Well, if you think about it, she's also a product of the Romulans. She was born and bred on a Romulan prison camp colony thing. She was raised by Romulans. So in a way,
accepted. It's not like the albino who would be cast out because he's different.
Yeah.
So in a way, she was a product of their system as well. So,
like Michael is a product of being raised on Vulcan.
Yeah.
Really, she's Vulcan without the pointed ears.
And her emotions are much closer to the surface.
No, they're not. They need to be. That's where we need to see Michael the human. I
seen
have to
it.
tell you, that's my biggest problem with her right now.
You're tired of the
Too fucking
stoicism.
Vulcan. Yeah, no. I think that she should have fucking broken down after she opened up the
Well, compared to the flashbacks from in the first episode, in the
She hasn't cried a
prequel.
fucking stitch.
No, she hasn't cried, but she is more she uses her emotions much better after the 7 years from when she first came aboard the ship. Her
Mopes a
emotions
lot.
are much more closer to the surface. She still has a long way to go, but she has made
Okay.
improvements in that direction.
So we're giving her props because she smiles.
It's a step in the right direction. That's
Oh
what
my
I'm trying to say.
God.
She still has a long way to
I'm with
go.
Cushy on this one. I think she's too perfect. I think she needs to break a little bit. I think she needs to be a bit. She is fucking less human than fucking Spock. And she's all human.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I'm just saying, but she, compared to what we saw when she in the flashback from when she first stepped aboard the Shinsu,
All right.
to where
This wouldn't
she
be
is
the G&T show. Go ahead, Mike.
she has grown in those 7 years.
That's true. She has.
She has. That's the point I'm making. She has grown. Her emotions are closer to the surface than they were when she stepped off that transporter pad 7 years earlier.
Exactly.
In
and I think
reality,
parts
though,
of
she should have at least had tears on her face when she
But
opened the
granted-
Captain DiGiorgino's DiGiorno's.
Or she
will.
should have had a PTSD meltdown when she heard the over the loudspeaker. She should have had total flashbacks of what had happened to her when she was a little kid.
Oh,
and
that's
she
true.
should have been a withering fucking idiot in a corner.
She should. Yeah, I agree with that.
I
She
would have
should
enjoyed something like
We
that.
did
That's what
see-
we need to see from
We
her.
did see some of that early in the first two parts. In the first
when she
two
was a little
episodes.
girl, and then till the Vulcans beat it out of her.
Well, I had gotten the impression that there were scenes when she was dealing with the Klingons that she was having those flashbacks. She was having those flashbacks from when she was a child and how.
But they didn't affect her.
You're right,
At the
but
end of
they
all of it,
should-
she
but it
still
should
comes
have-
off
Hold
as
on,
this
Mike just
stoic,
brought up a
fucking
good point.
unfeeling bitch.
Mike just
But
brought up a good
it should
point.
have happened
Did it?
again now, but it didn't.
Didn't they say that the Klingons hadn't been heard from in 100 years?
100 years, right? Another writing
But wait a
gap.
minute. But her colony was attacked by Klingons.
Right.
no,
But
they
they
was
had
said
heard-
barely.
It was a Vulcan colony.
But still,
She was human. What was she doing on a Vulcan colony?
They've
well, not
barely
only that,
heard
the
anything.
Klingon, but my point is the Klingons had been heard from in 100 years because
there had been
in her
skirmishes. There had been skirmishes, not
Yeah,
The
they said-
Vulcans are a part of the Federation. The Federation allegedly hadn't heard from them in 100 years. They should have. The 100 years was bullshit. They should have said 30 some odd years, as long as Michael was alive, minus
or
how
just
old she was
decades.
at the time. It
They
wouldn't
could've
have
just
been
said
any less
decades.
effective.
No, they said we've barely heard anything from the Klingons for a century. So it's not we haven't. It's there's been very few
Oh,
occasions.
we're gonna go back and watch these episodes again, aren't we?
Well, I just have. It wouldn't be the G&T show if I didn't say this. Terry, you're right. They need to make her less perfect. Except for that is.
What?
That is doesn't change.
I didn't hear that. What?
She needs to not be so perfect, except for dead A's. Dead A's doesn't change.
Oh, whatever.
Is he saying dat ass? Is
Dead
that-
A's.
I guess.
I have no idea what that is.
I just thought it was an American thing.
Yeah, I know he's lost us all. Oh, that ass. Okay, that's what he's saying. Yep. You're so funny. And yes,
Hey.
she's beautiful.
Yes, very.
All right. Well, we've kind of gone a little over today, not much, but a little. We didn't get to any of our links, but it was really fun to talk about just a single episode of Star Trek and dissect it and beat it into a mash, which is what we haven't done in forever or ever, to be honest.
We don't need awards. We're that good.
So again, if you have any questions, or if we'll put all of those links, there are some great ones out there. Mike, do you want to touch on any of them that you feel are important before we wrap the show up?
Drastic Measures. The second Discovery novel looks like it may be released in February. That's the one written by Dayton, and it looks like it's going to feature Lorca and Giorgio's backstories.
And I did start Desperate Measures with I got it halfway read when I was on my way to and from San Antonio. It's very good, David Mack. It's very good.
I haven't started yet. I've been reading Solar Reboot by our friend Matt Hunt.
Matt Hunt.
I'm loving it.
Oh, cool.
Very, very good. So if you haven't picked it up, please do. Indie authors.
We'll talk, I'm sure, much more about Orville next week. I haven't seen the last episode, so it'll be a good time for me to catch up. Now that Critical Role is on hiatus through next year, so I'll catch up on Orville.
I watched the last 2 episodes of
Critical Role.
I knew that it was coming to an end. You had mentioned that it was coming to an end, so I thought I'd tune in and see what happens. So I watched the epic battle, and oh my god, that was an epic battle.
It was an epic battle.
And there was one point when he was like, there were a couple of points when he was just shocked by not only what the roles were. I mean, it was like the opposite of what I've gone
what you guys went through this week.
I mean, it was just like he was expecting mediocre or bad roles, and instead epic roles were happening, and it was just throwing
truly clutch performances by and if anybody ever sees it, there's a point in the last epic battle for the crit roll for Vox Machina, this one group of characters, and Sam Riegel, who plays this bard, has been holding this one spell forever. For days, he's been holding this spell in the hopes that he wouldn't have to use it, so he could use it to bring. We all knew that this one character was going to die, and he was going to use it to bring this other character back, so he would have, for all intent and purposes, a happy ending.
And I love a happy ending.
He ended up having to sacrifice the spell to take down the big bad guy, and in doing so, he knew he wouldn't be able to save Liam O'Brien's character, and it affected him very, very much, to the point where he breaks down during the battle, and everybody's crying.
Yeah,
it was a mess.
There was this one point when Pike had used a healing spell.
Yeah,
and everyone was maxed all over again, and you saw Matt's face just like, what the.
It really was a battle. This GM was not pulling punches,
happy,
man.
And he was not happy because all that work, everything he had done so far, and he was like, he was running out of big spells, and it was like, oh man, and they're at full health.
and they went all the way back. It was.
I can guarantee you, Terry, our crew of the T'Pau would not be crying if a character died.
Yeah, right. Well,
we'd be laughing and pointing.
These people have been playing these characters in an improvisational manner for 5+ years. And this was the last episode, the last battle that they were going to be doing together, because all of them are rolling new characters after the first of the year.
Yeah.
So it was a real emotional thing for them on a personal level.
Yeah. And then there was the epilogue episode, which actually ended, the show.
Yeah.
And that was pretty interesting.
Good.
What's the big guy's name?
Grog. Travis Willingham, who does all of these amazing voices.
He waits until like literally the
very end to pull a card
and send them on a 2-week.
he does but he does something that is so Grog's numbers, his intelligence level for D&D, his intelligence level is only a 6. So he's like if he ever gets changed, you've got to see this. If Keyleth ever changes him into another animal, like an eagle, he ends up becoming smarter because eagles are smarter than Grog. So he plays his character true to his roles.
It's very, very good.
And so Grog does something truly stupid.
By
And he pulls a card.
with no one around. Well, luckily Pike was. She
so funny.
She was lucky to have been there. Otherwise,
exactly.
Man. It was
so funny.
It was funny, and yeah, but that delayed the ending of the show for a bit. But then I like what he wanted afterward. You know, once it was they were trying to figure out what they did for the rest of their lives, and Grog wanted to. He wanted to learn to read. I liked that.
Yeah. He has 8,000 gold left over, so he brings it to the city and essentially goes to the guy he punched in the face once and says, "Hey, you, I want you to teach me how to read." And he hands him a 160-pound bag of gold and I loved the way that ended. I thought that was perfect.
I mean, I haven't been following. I only watched 3 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
Altogether, but it was very nice, and I wanted to see, how this epic game,
crazy,
5 years in the making, how it all ended, and I was not disappointed. So
they did good, and I really like the fact that it wasn't a perfectly everybody lives happily ever after kind of ending. It was perfect. Vax is where he needed to be. So yes, I was talking Critical Role, you guys. This 5-year epic story arc is now done. They start again after the first of the year with all new characters, so I'm excited about that. All the rest of our links will be available on our show notes, which I will be doing immediately after this show, Michael. And essentially it's going to be a very short description, and it's going to be we're talking Discovery, and that's kind of it. Any announcements before we take it away?
Yeah, probably should mention 24 Hours of GNT.
Yeah, that's coming up in a couple weeks.
Let me get this thing open. So that for a moment, as Nick likes to say, things are opening.
Again, for people, we are donating all of our donations for the 24-hour show. We're not taking any donations for the GNT show this year. Our production costs are being, we're just moving forward because we're changing our product next year. We're changing our format next year and opening ourselves up to talk about all of our geek loves as well as Star Trek. We've taken this 24-hour show, and we're asking all of our listeners to donate to the Pop Hero Coalition, or the Pop Culture Hero Coalition, which is a 501c3 that was founded by Chase Masterson, as well as wonderful people in the psychiatric and education fields, in order to help stop bullying by use of education and educational materials. If you are donating anytime this month, please keep your receipt so you can send it to us during our 24-hour show, because your donations could be what helps you win one of our giveaways during the 24-hour show. So again, all of the donations that we're asking you to make are not to us, but to Pop Hero. What was that, Nick?
And I want to thank Kajiro for the big giveaway this year. The grand prize is a night in the Poconos with the martini pub with Terry. So
he's lying, of course.
But I started working
filmed
on the schedule.
By Kajiro.
Oh, geez.
I started working on the schedule. Things are starting to come together. I think I'm almost done. I was supposed to speak with Chase yesterday or the day before. For some reason, we couldn't make that happen. So I'm just waiting to talk to her to find out when she's going to be joining us. So let's see. But yeah, things are starting to come together. We've got some prizes. We've got some guests. I think we're gonna have some games. We're even planning an extended bit of Star Trek adventures during some of the overnight hours. So it should be interesting.
Cool. Okay, I think that does it for this week's episode. Look forward to having you back for episode 299. I can't believe it. We're getting there, you guys. And that will be, of course, on Sunday, October 22nd. Until then, live long and prosper.
Kabbalah.
Goodbye, everybody.
Jolan True. Bad writing.
GNT 290.
Music for the GNT show is provided by
October 15th,
5-Year Mission,
2017.
Enterprise Blues Band, Warp 11, Andrew Allen, and Greth Thor. The GNT show is a BLB production.
Move ahead, warp factor 10. Put a mini skirt on Mayo Man. Represent the human race. And we make space a happy place. To boldly go where no man's gone before. I think I sang that line once before, but I'm not too sure. We'll be so happy, can't you see? A zero-G community. Gonna travel to new worlds. Beam on down and meet some green girls. Gonna see what we can see. A fancy-free galaxy. To boldly go where no man's gone before. I think I sang that line once before, but I'm not too sure. We'll be so happy, can't you see? A zero-G community. Come and take a tour with me. There'll be no cons or Kobayashi. Gonna travel to the end and make new friends with aliens. To boldly go where no man's gone before. Space happy. I think I sang that line once before, but I'm not too sure. We'll be so happy, can't you see? A zero-G community. To boldly go where no man's gone before. Space happy. I think I sang that line once before, but I'm not too sure. We'll be so happy, can't you see? A zero-G